Okay, we're up.
Okay, all right. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. Mr. Quonic?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
I am here.
Mrs. Olson? Here. Mrs. Sari?
Here.
Mr. Granlund?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
And I am also here. All please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the agenda was posted throughout the district according to school board policy, published as a legal ad in the Superior Telegram, posted on the district webpage, and also sent to the WNXR radio station for announcement. A meeting notice was sent to the connection for publication. So we will start with the approval of the June 13th, 2022 agenda, both open and executive sessions.
I make a motion that we approve those.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Johnson, seconded by Mrs. Sari. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent agenda. We have the May 9th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, I just read that. We have the treasurer's report.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm okay. I'm all right. Consent agenda, you're right. The regular board meeting minutes, open in executive session. And then we move right into Mr. Landwehr's treasurer's report.
The summary of the treasurer's report as of May 31, 2022. General fund. General account on May 31, 2022, there was a balance of $1,640,200.80 in cash and investments. Receipts since the 1st of June and not included in the May 31 balance were $319,832.89. And the disbursement from tonight's June 13 board meeting total $161,731.55. The flexible spending account on May 31, 2022, there was a balance of $28,415.97 in cash and investments. In the health reimbursement account on May 31, 2022, there was a balance of $11,719.95 in cash and investments. The debt service fund on May 31, 2022, there was a balance of $673.33 in cash and investments. And a more detailed report on fund activity is included for your review in the financial statements.
All right, thank you.
You are welcome.
Okay, everybody has the payment of invoices in your packet if you had any concerns on that. And then we move into retirement, resignations, and employment.
Sharon Graham, part-time art teacher at IRES. Loretta Kopetsky, 5th grade teacher at NES. Carrie Reeflob, administrative assistant at NMS. Laura Pulaski, student transitions coordinator at Northwestern High School. And then retirement, Susie Madsen, food service assistant at Northwestern High School with 13 years of service. Move right into hiring.
Yes.
Okay. Kimberly Darst, special education teacher at NMS and IRES. Ariana Jago, school counselor, IRES, NES, and the middle school. Kaylee Nolt, Northwestern High School math teacher, full-time. Stephanie Clark, Daryl Hellenius, Leah Mignot, bus drivers, replacing Luke Jarman, Annette Johnson, and Patrick Miller. Bailey Heck, Amelia Liebert, Marisol Green, Tiger's Den assistants. That does it.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Gail made a motion. Mrs. Sari and Mr. Granlund has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item is the appointment of the CISA 12 representative. It is with regret that we accept Ms. Sari's resignation from this appointed position. Therefore, we need to acknowledge Ms. Sari's resignation and reappoint at this meeting This person would represent the district at the CISA 12 meetings and attend the June 28th, 2022 CISA 12 convention. We are requesting anyone who has an interest to please speak up at the meeting. We do have Mr. Glonick attending the convention, or has expressed an interest in attending the convention.
And an interest in being our CISA.
So if everyone okay with that, my turn.
As am I.
Okay.
It's coming up.
Yeah, that's next. That's our next one. Yep. Yep. Do we we don't need to do a motion on that? We'll just go ahead and-
No, there's a consensus.
Okay, well, thank you for taking on that role. And thank you, Gail, for your many years of taking on that role. Next item is CISA 12 address by Dr. Nicholas Madison, the Executive Director.
Thank you. It's Don Madison, but close enough. You know, I was thinking,
Sorry.
when I dissected my first cat 40 years ago, I didn't think I'd be standing on the same spot explaining what a CISA is. I believe I did dissect my first cat right here.
Really?
Here. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, I want to know why you say that was your first cat.
For sure. So I am Nick Madison. I'm the agency administrator at CISA 12. I've been there a year. My roots are here. I, at one point, spent some time rolling out a bunch of sod while Brian watched me and talked to people. And, long time ago, but yes, I'm an 85 Northwestern grad, and I have been in K-12 education for a little over 30 years, the last 16 of which I was the superintendent of Brilliant Public Schools, which is a school about size Northwestern down by Green Bay. So I am happy to be here. It's good to be back. It's good to be back here. So thank you for giving me some time. I am kind of going around to all of the boards in our CISA. There are 17 school districts in our CISA. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I think this is number 14 or 15, which after a long time of attending board meetings a couple times a month with my own board, now to see all these different ones, it's interesting. A lot of the same discussions everywhere, same topics. They just keep coming up. You know, we had a big discussion about refrigerators, microwaves, and classrooms when I was in Brilliant. So you're not the only place having that discussion as well. As an aside, we settled on it had to have some special sticker on them so they wouldn't burn up. I don't know what the sticker was, but
UL approved.
that's what it is. Yeah, so it couldn't be from like a knob and tube plug or something like that. So thanks for having me here. I'll be brief. I know you've got a lot on your plate tonight, and this isn't the highlight, but it probably should be. So what are CISAs? So CISAs, there are 12 CISAs in the state of Wisconsin. We provide educational services to the district in our region. CISA 12 is Northern Wisconsin. We are the biggest CISA in the state in terms of area. We are the smallest in terms of number of schools and the number of students. So that gives us, I think, the ability to, well, we have to be on the road a little bit more than people in other CISAs, but it also, everybody up here is used to that, so that's not a big deal. But we also have the ability to be, I think, pretty responsive to our districts because there's fewer to be responsive to. And I think that provides us a pretty good ability to pivot quickly to what our districts needs and to be very responsive to listening to them because there's not as many voices. So tonight, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of CISA 12. We are our 17 Northern Wisconsin school districts of about 15,000 students. And our services are in 4 main areas, what we serve to exist. First is, and these are kind of outlined in my intentionally low-tech presentation here tonight, so nothing can go wrong. The first area is continuous improvement, where if you look at our taglines above, advance equity, lead change, sustain improvement, those really kind of define what we exist to do. We are about equity in our CISA to make sure that every student learns and every student has the opportunity to a high-quality education, no matter where they live. Whether it be Mercer, whether it be Superior, or anywhere in between, we are here to help our districts ensure that they provide a high-quality instruction to those students. And to define high-quality instruction, we really want to focus on data, we really want to focus on outcomes, and we really want to focus on learning. And so this is about student learning. This is about, at the end of the day, making sure students learn and that there are measurable outcomes to determine if students are learning. We can implement a lot of programs, we can have a lot of talk, we can do a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it really needs to be about student learning. And we at CISA 12 own the student learning of all of our districts. We look collectively at what's happening in all of them, and we take ownership in that. We look at every school, we know what every school is doing, we try to be in every school, and we try to be responsive and receptive to what they need, and also helping them maybe determine what they need. A lot of different areas that occurs, but we are that agency that is about helping that happen. We're also, the second area is professional learning, is providing professional development to our districts in all of the areas that relate to student learning. We have specialists, we have consultants, we have directors that really determine and help train teachers in a variety of things, but primarily evidence-based instructional practices that are really kind of tuned into a multi-system level of support. That's really what we are about. We also, the third area, provide an extensive amount of services in special education. That's probably the biggest thing that we do. If you have a special need of a person that is not necessarily full-time need, districts share our services. So we have deaf, hard, and hearing teachers, we have vision impaired teachers, we have occupational therapists, et cetera, that are shared between districts, as most of them don't need a full-time in a lot of those specific special education areas. And finally, we provide a lot of support in leadership and administration. That includes supporting all of our district administrators. That's largely my role. We also do work with board trainings, board relations, and making sure that all these areas are working and supported in terms of governance, in terms of what superintendents should know. We're not necessarily legal experts, but have a lot of legal background and definitely can point you in the right direction if you have a legal question. We're not going to give legal advice because we're not attorneys, but we are pretty familiar with school law and have been through the ringer. I've been through the ringer on that a lot of different ways and times, and I think provide a lot of support on that. We also provide fiscal services to a number of districts. We provide business services in terms of accounting, run payroll for several districts. We also are pretty heavily involved, have become in superintendent search services. We've placed 3 superintendents in our CISA this last year, and we have done that as well. We are a very, very cost-effective, about half the cost of any other entity you could find for that, and also pretty well connected and networked throughout the state for all the candidates that could be people that you would consider for a superintendent search. We also do strategic planning for districts. We have consultants that do that are retired superintendents. And we also do a lot of tasks that really nobody really likes to do, like E-rate, Medicare billing, those types of things that are kind of dull, but somebody has to do it. And we also do a lot of things that are investigative, and also mediative for districts in terms of high kind of things that are really tense situations, investigations that need to happen. Whenever you have a complaint, we've done meet and confers between the administration and teachers. We've done mediations between parents and administration. We've done a lot of things that really you may go to an attorney, but we can kind of provide that first step and be able to get resolution much more cost effectively than an attorney does. And CISAs are also involved in cooperative purchasing and support and network with other CISAs. CISA 2 does that. CISA 10 does a lot of the building services, so we're part of that network as well. So that's what we do in a nutshell. We've got a lot on your plate. Does the board have any questions, comments, or anything they want to run by me? Yes.
Over the years, I've been in a number of training sessions at CISA now. appreciate those and appreciate Gail's information every meeting on what's happening with CISA. So,
Yeah.
Good resource.
Yeah, Gail was on the interview thing the other day, so he's obviously a very bright board member.
I was actually on the CISA Board of Control for 19 years, which I didn't realize that I had to go back and look. So that's a long time.
Time flies.
Wow.
Yeah, and the other, my mother was a CISA 12 employee over 40 years ago, so. So we're back in the family, and you worked with my mother too.
I was your mother's administrative assistant over 40 years.
When she was at,
Thank you.
yeah. She was at the middle school, right?
Yes.
She was,
We were there.
special ed director.
We, and actually, I was half-time school district in Maple, half-time Seaside. And we traveled to many districts. She was a director of SPED 4. We went to Washburn, Bayfield, South Shore, Ontossegin, which is no longer, Solon Springs. I mean, there's many schools.
Yeah, I think there was like 2 special ed, the rules were simpler then. There was 2 special ed directors in the whole CISA.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Any
So-
other questions?
all right, thank you, and I'll stay till the end of the board meeting. So,
Thank you.
So we can write down any questions we come up with.
At the end.
We just want your phone number.
Whatever you think of.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, thank you again. Next item is the assessment overview, Mr. Larrabee.
This Janet goes, okay, but it's on my laptop.
You, me?
All right, just want to check. I'm actually gonna project behind, so. So I guess to start, thanks for welcoming me in. I know not everybody gets as excited about student performance day as I do.
You are weird.
I can represent that. I promise that Dominic and I did not plan a 1-2, but this very much is. Because when he's talking about looking at how our kids are doing, and talking about how we equitably are looking at student growth, that's what keeps me going. And what gets me up at 5:30 to look at student data is coffee, and the fact that within this, it's also looking at how powerful our teachers' instruction is and the things that we have done to make it better for our kids, keeps kind of fueling this and moving this forward. So when Dominic was talking about equitable systems of support, what he's really talking about is how do we put in place things that our kids need at the time that they need them. So I kind of took our end of the year assessment results for the elementary and the middle school and broke it down just to show how our kids have continued to grow throughout the year. But it's really in light of the fact that our powerful teachers are getting timely data where at the elementary level, we're able to say, okay, here's a group of 8 or 9 kids that we need to, for 30 minutes a day, focus on comprehension skills, decoding skills, fluency skills. So because our teachers are getting this timely information using our data assessment systems, both from our assessment platforms, but also our classroom instruction, we're able to kind of plug in what they need when they need it. So that's kind of how we approach that student data. So what I'm going to show is kind of the afterthought of that, because we assess kids at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and again at the end of the year. So it shows us how our kids have grown. But it's really after the fact that our teachers are taking that information and they're able to remediate and support both for kids that are on the high end so that we keep our high achievers moving higher, and on the low end so that we get our kids that need more are getting more in the time that they need it. So Heather, how did you? All right, so you got thumbs up. So I want to kind of start with just a little kind of overview. There we go. So at the elementary level, we use a system called FastBridge. It's a benchmarking assessment system for both academics in math and reading, but also in social and emotional evaluations, how our students feel about their experience in school. And then in grades 6 through 8, we use STAR, which is a Renaissance product that we've used for a lot of years. Both of them are given across the United States. They're nationally normed, meaning that we have 1 million kids that take the test. And then we can say, well, based off of that, how do our kids do? But within some of our assessment platforms, we can also dig a little deeper to say, well, in the district, how do they do? Or in the classroom, how do they do? So if I have 10 kids in the classroom, are they at the top end or the middle end or the bottom end? So we can look at how kids grow that way locally as well. At the high school, we're not excluding them. We do not have a benchmarking system like this at the high school. and we don't get the ACT or ACT Aspire scores until the middle of the summer to the end of the summer. So when I come back in the fall and we talk about the forward exam and the ACT, we'll use those state level tests at that time. So this is just our local assessment, if you will. So just from a system standpoint, when I go through the slides, on the left-hand side, you'll see 1 grade level. It's a little bit blurry up there. It's 2nd grade would be, the first bar graph would be how did they do in the fall, the middle would be in the winter, and then on the right would be in the spring. And then on the other side, that would be our 3rd grade. So I have 2 grade levels displayed here, just for format, if you will. You'll notice at the bottom, there's some color indicators on the key. What that tells us within the system that we're using, the blue kids on the top as example would be, in FastBridge, it talks about them as being high achievers or on the college pathway. So those kids would be above the 85th percentile. And then in the middle would be our average kids. In the yellow would be our kids that are in that maybe low risk category, and then, or low average. And then in the red would be our kids that are below the 25th percentile. Or if we ran the race of 100 kids, those kids that scored in the last 25, they just need a little extra support.
Can you say again the 2nd grade, 3rd grade thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
What I'm
No, that's fine. On the left-hand side, these 3 bars would be our 2nd grade students.
Oh, it says 2nd on the bottom.
Yeah.
I see.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I understand. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So we start with our fall baseline, and then we progress through the winter and then into the spring. And then you'll notice there's a blue line. That's our growth by the national average. So it's comparing our kids to the national average and whether we're increasing, staying stagnant, or if we're decreasing, if we're not keeping up with everybody else. So in the world of graphs, we want to see the red get smaller, we want to see the blue and the green get bigger, and we want to see our national growth average increasing, meaning that we're keeping up with the times or out excelling our peers, if you will. So the way that I have broken this down, at the elementary level, we have something called our target time. So what we want to do is we want to look at those kids that are on the bottom end, and we create smaller groups. And then we have things like reading specialists, reading teachers, maybe some of our teachers that are more powerful in reading. We're having them work with smaller groups of students, those kids that are typically on the bottom end. And then those kids that are maybe at average growth, they're somewhere in the middle and maybe some larger groups. Or if they're exceeding, then we maybe have them in larger groups. So for 30 minutes a day, our kids get a differentiated or a different instruction geared towards their reading or math skills. So it's important to look at the bottom percentile of are we decreasing the amount of kids that are at risk. So in our format, I have talked about left being 1 grade level, right being another grade level. If you look at the bottom, I broke that out and just said, well, based off of their fall score, what percentage of our kids are in that risk category? And then at the end, where did we end at the end of the year? So in this example at Iron River, we're looking at our kindergarten and 1st grade. We started with 10% of our kindergartners being at risk. And at the end of the year, 0% of the 12 kids were in that category. So Mrs. Lind is our 1 kindergarten teacher there. From a format standpoint, you can see how she increased the kids' skills. And even though instruction was given, those standards keep moving. She was able to keep up with that and also supported the children that were at the bottom and close that achievement gap. So we're very excited to see that. If you look at our 1st grade at Iron River, we started with 33% of the kids that were in that risk category. And at the end of the year, we had 2 out of 12 students, or 17% that were in that risk category. So again, going back to the effect size, we grew those kids. We were targeted with our instruction, and our kids kept up with it. Our teachers did a great job. So I'm going to move a little bit quicker because Dr. Cronin told me I get 10 minutes and I have to spend every minute of it. In 2nd grade and 3rd grade for reading, you can see again that same trend line. We decreased slightly in the middle of the year for our 2nd graders, but we popped back up. Sometimes we have move-ins. Sometimes we have kids that maybe just were 1 or 2 cut scores away. So we're always sensitive to that. But at the top, I would also like to point out we maintain that high achievement to those kids that are at the upper echelon, if you will, or higher achievement. You can see the same goes for 3rd grade on the other side. And then on 4th and 5th grade, you can see we kept kind of the same standard. We had a lot of high achieving students. We did have 1 that was in the risk category for 4th grade. And then obviously Mrs. Paul's did a fantastic job in 5th grade as well. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask as I'm going through them. On the math side at Iron River, in kindergarten, I did not pull the data using the early math score. I used the same test for everything. So there is not a or automated math test for kindergarten that we use full year. So this is just for 1st grade. You can see our 1st graders did very well. At Iron River, 2nd grade and 3rd grade, we have a very small amount of needs with that. Our 3rd graders did very well, with quite a few of them scoring at the high end. And then in 4th and 5th grade, obviously the concepts and skills are much harder. We did have a couple kids that were scoring a little bit lower, but obviously we continue to do well. Switching schools, jumping into NES, it's the same format. You can see at the beginning of the year, moving kindergarten through and into 1st grade. Remember, those expectations continue to go up across, and now we have a larger cell size. So kindergarten, as an example, had 73 kids there, and it's only 16 of the 73 that had that level of needs, despite coming off of obviously an unorthodox 4K year. For a lot of our kids, this was their first experience. Same with 1st grade. 2nd and 3rd grade, something to note, a big pat on the back for 2nd grade. If you look at the number of our students that are high achieving, we have a really high group of kids coming through. There's certainly some kids on the bottom. We have about 20% of the kids are in that 25th percentile, but this is also a very high performing group. So I'm pretty excited to see what they do next year in 3rd grade. And our 3rd graders as well. 4th and 5th grade. 4th grade, keep in mind, is one of our largest groups right now. So we had 86 students at NES, plus we had another 16 at Iron River, so it's a very large group moving through the building. In mathematics, same format. If you look at our 1st graders, a very small amount of students that are in need of that intervention period. 2nd and 3rd grade hold true to that. Only 7 out of 62 kids for 3rd grade are in that bottom 25 percentile. And in 4th and 5th grade, we're looking at 11%. So very small population. So mathematically, our kids perform very well, which for me as a building principal, that's indicative that our teachers have the skills that they need, and also they have the resources they need because our kids are continuing to do well. I do have the middle school. It's a slightly different format, so I'll kind of break it down. This has 3 grades, but again, the first 3 are 6th grade. So fall, winter, spring. Next 3 would be 7th grade, fall, winter, spring, and then 8th grade, fall, winter, spring for reading. In this format, however, because it's a different assessment, the orange to me and the red, that would be the bottom 25%. So there's 2 colors that combine to make that up. If you look across some very strong points for me, both 6th grade and 7th grade have a very large population that's high achieving. That's a very good thing. Those that know how our state report card works, when you're high achieving, you get more points. So expect good things from them when we do get our state report cards. But also with that, if you look at going into 6th grade, or from 6th grade into 7th grade, there's a very small percentage of kids that are at that highest risk category, which the red would be below the 10th percentile. So here we have a few kids that are below the 10th percentile, but the majority of that 12% below the 25th is in that 10th to 24th percentile. So even though they are low performing, they're not below the 10th percentile. So in reading, Mrs. Craig has wonderful things going. From a data standpoint, my advice is keep doing what you're doing because it's working. And then you can see the effect in 8th grade as well. On the math side, Ms. Craig and I have talked about it as well. We have a very low percentage of kids that are showing that they have additional needs. They don't have a deemed tiger time like we have during their advisory time, correct, Mrs. Craig? They use some online program to be able to tailor to those kids' skills, and Mr. Buren also does the reading side. That is where we're at. I know I just rambled on about a lot of charts and colors and graphs, but I'm just giving 10 minutes. Any questions?
I said that's a great job to keep teachers to keep that going and recognize those.
A disclaimer, and Dominic, if you want to add to it, I'm sure every school district around the state, if not in our CISA, is talking about the same thing. kids are coming back into our buildings at different places after being home. And my 2 cents to our teachers at the end of the year was, it was fantastic, keep up the great work. I met with every grade level team at both Iron River and at NES, and we talked about our kids continue to grow despite being at home for the end of, if I'm thinking of my son who's a 4th grader, he went home at the end of 2nd grade, didn't come back. And then 3rd grade was in and out, and teachers gone and this and that, and they're continuing to grow. So that's a testament to our teachers.
That 6th grade in the reading.
Yep.
Is the fact that 31% are, well, 31% are deemed under that 25%. Is the reading test a comprehension test, just a basic reading skill test, or how is that?
So the STAR reading test is an online test. So what it does is it kind of predicts where the kids should be, and then as they take it across the year, it adjusts. So it asks them a question, say if it's too hard, then it'll ask them an easier question. If that's too easy, then it'll adjust. So it's constantly moving to try to drill down to what this kid's skill sets are. That doesn't take into account that maybe it was on a Tuesday when they took it, and on Tuesdays they just had a bad day, or there's those different things that can affect a test that we can't account for. But that I guess target for the kids continues to go up, but it adjusts the questions to fit their needs.
Is it mainly comprehension?
I guess my question is exactly
Comprehension,
that.
is it fluency? Is it
not-
decoding? Is
Yeah,
it
it's not a fluency assessment.
at all? Okay.
No,
More
there are some
comprehension.
different tests. So at the middle school for kids that are in interventions, we do use the fast bridge assessment that we use at the elementary. That does have a more one-on-one where the teacher will be with the student, but that's not.
So this is more comprehension. They're reading a passage, needing to answer questions about it.
I guess, I mean, in seeing 30%, and if it's a comprehension thing, having that percentage that's struggling with comprehension is obviously going to affect everything. So what is the, and maybe this is just an open question, what is the, how do you fix that?
That's $1 million
And I guess, and when I say how do you fix that, do we have, I know elementary school has reading specialists and stuff like that. Does the middle school also have that as far as a dedicated reading specialist, like the middle school or the elementary school does?
I'm gonna pass the mic to.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I am remiss to use the word fix, because I think students struggle, and so we attend to that. So we look at what are the areas for need and growth. And then with that, data drives instructional practices. So with that data, we look at that and we say, okay, we've got a group of students that are coming in. If you look at COVID, these have been our students who were in those elementary grades, like Brad was speaking to, that missed so much school. We know in that 4th grade, that's where they're really learning to write, in 5th grade, and so they were really out for a good chunk of that. So we predicted, if you would, that this would be our data. In fact, it's actually a lot better than we predicted. But with that, then we start to attend to those needs and those gaps. And one of the ways that we do that is we have an intervention group or intervention class, actually. And then the students, when they're coming into 7th grade, they're placed with the teacher that is the content specialist, which would be Mike Fear in 7th grade, and then in 8th grade would be Sean Leith. And then they meet with those students for the first 40 minutes of the day, every day. And then what they do is they use a program. It's the top rated program right now for reading interventions, which is called Reading Plus. And then the teachers use that to kind of drive and reinforce instruction. And then they also have those students in their core instruction as well. And as you can see at that 7th grade level, drops down to 18% and then 12%. Again, not the same students, but you can see that that's really where we start to attend to that. So we get them in 6th grade. We do the same program with 6th grade, but we also, 6th grade, that data usually see a dip in that 6th grade as they're onboarding into middle school and the complexities of those reading levels as well. In terms of a reading specialist, I am a reading specialist, so I am there, and we do meet on Tuesdays, every Tuesday. Our team meets from 7:30 to 8:10. We're in the middle of a pilot too for a 4 program, so that's another variable that's in there. And there's a lot of variables Also looking at the level of students that are coming in and the needs of students as well. So we tend to look at that in percentages of students, and that all factors in as well too. But all in all, we're not proud of 30% there, but when we move into the data of the math too, you see those students are really, they're excelling and doing quite well. Are you popping over? So that, yeah, the same students, it's always so interesting to see that as well. Mathematics at that level and where they're going as well. So,
And Adam, I value the question because as a
yeah,
consumer, as a parent, I
right.
also want to know, okay, so we've got the graphs, we've got the information, but what about it? So from my lens, when I work with our teachers, it's okay, here's what we know about the kids, but we also have to know what are we going to do about it.
Right.
One of the reasons why we went from the elementary level STAR into the FastBridge world is because it gives us information that's very specific. So every 8 weeks at the elementary level, our kids take this assessment. We sit down with our teachers and say, okay, what do they need? And not every kid needs the same thing. It's kind of like we're making 17 breakfasts at once. But if this group of, say, 5 or 6 kids are going to need something, who's going to give it to them? And if that's a reading need, it's going to be Mrs. Williams or Miss Liss or somebody in the reading world that's very specific. And then if we have some high performers, we're also able to say, okay, these kids, maybe they're 4th graders, but they're reading at a 6th, 7th grade level. I don't want to stick them over here and say, keep yourself busy. But instead, we need to now take that a different direction. So we're looking at this not as numbers, but more as like a recipe. What ingredients do they need?
I mean, I understand that, and I get that. It's just my initial concern is I know a lot of people that can read really well. They could tell you a thing that they read. So the amount of what that's going to affect them for the next whatever their school career is going to be and beyond. That's which is specifically why I said it was a comprehension.
And I would also add that CISA 12 does a phenomenal job with us as well. We work really, really close and in tandem with Sarah Nelson, Amanda Trott, and Amanda Popovich as well. And their supports have been exceptional, especially through COVID and the pandemic. So a shout out to them and their work as well.
Yeah, they've been in all of our buildings throughout the year, working with their teams of teachers, us as administrators. They probably should have a day off.
The new ELA program,
Yes,
you made your decision,
yes.
is going to be funded for.
The program they're using is a bit, it was becoming outdated, and then a lot of the technology resources were not working anymore due to Adobe and Flash and everything else going on. So I think they're really excited and energized to really start using that as well. So thank you to the board for allowing that.
Thank you.
All right. I do have to leave. I have a baseball game that I have to attend to against Mr. Lyons too. So thank you all very much. If you do have questions, call me, shoot me an email. I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Larrabee. All right, next item is a report on the strategies for addressing student vaping at school.
You have the board write-up on this. So the request is for ordering 1 wand for the high school and 1 for the middle school, about $30 each. And it's just a strategy potentially to use in order to see if they can arrest this issue.
I have a question.
Yes.
What's the punishment for finding a kid that is vaping? Is it
3 days. 3 days.
Do
Out of school.
does the staff not feel that they have the authority to utilize that when they find it? Because what I read was they're having a hard time, kids are hiding them on them or whatever. And it's like, you know what? If you get caught with it, I don't know how many times you're gonna get caught before you're out. But I mean, is it the
They're
first
out
time?
the first time they're caught, they're out for 3 days.
And we're still having problems when they come back with the same kids?
Correct,
And they're out again?
correct.
All right, well, I can't imagine why they would continue to do it. And then,
Because they get addicted.
well, I mean, bringing it to school,
Because they're addicted.
Yeah.
because once if they've been out 3 times, I mean, we've used the 3 strikes you're out thing a lot. Maybe we need to up that and say, you know what, it's longer than 3 days now if you get caught the second or the third time. I don't know. You guys should have the authority to enforce this thing to get it to stop.
I guess the hard part is
The
catching.
third time,
Yeah. The first time at the middle school that they're caught with it, it's a 3-day suspension. And then we also this year kind of stepped up the process that we're doing as well. We actually called Douglas County Sheriff's Department and have them arrive, and we actually keep the drug kits at school. We contact the family right away. Family can be present either in person or via phone, and then we have them test what's in the vapes. I think first and foremost, the punishments are important, but being proactive and trying to help and protect our kids in our community is so important. And I believe, I'll stand corrected, but every single vape that I have handed over to Douglas County to be tested, they have confirmed that it has been tampered with. And why that's concerning as a community here in Maple is because someone is supplying those and someone is tampering with those. And our young children believe that that is vape and it's a vapor and they're using that. And that's what they believe. They believe, some may believe that it's harmless, right? But if someone is tampering with that and putting something in there, they're all our children. And that's where it gets scary to see that they're using that maybe unknowingly of what's in there. So they come in and we have a really poignant conversation with the students and the family that we're gonna pour this into this kit. And if it turns purple, that means someone has put something else in there. And how well do you know the person that handed this to you? Because I'm about to pour this in and see how well we know them, right? And so it's a pretty scary, I think, moment, because I don't think kids realize that someone could be tampering with that before they hand it over, and families may not realize that. So we try to be doing a lot of prevention in our health classes, talking with students. I have to give a shout out and accolade to Erica Kaufman and her FACT organization. It's a group of students that just do a ton of presentations. They do announcements. They really involve the community, and a shout out to Charmaine Swan with the Northwest Lungs Alliance too, really is partnering us and taking us under her wing as well. So we've really been working with students and families and sending out information and videos for them to watch. But if they are caught, you're right. I mean, there has to be 100% consequences. And on the first offense, it's 3 days plus the test of the kit, not a drug test. And then a urine test. It's we just pour the vape liquid. Then on the second offense, it's 3, and then a family meeting with all family members. All have to be present that are in Skyward, so that everyone's aware of the dangers and what's happening and why we're trying to intervene. We're not trying to punish, we're trying to intervene. And that, as we know as parents, sometimes comes with consequences, right? We understand that. So, and then the third time, it is 10 days with an appearance before the board for expulsion. And the reason being there, as you said, we're not figuring that out, but we're continuing to bring it into our campus, onto our campus, and exposing other children because they share and they pass it around, and if they don't know what's in there, that's very it's a cause for concern for all of us. So we're trying to come at it with multiple angles right now, and I thank the community, and I thank the parents when we make those calls. They're usually there very, very quickly. They're there to support and look for resources to support their children and help them too. So I thank you.
So I assume that we've gotten a number of students that have gone past that first punishment and gotten to the second one.
I would not say a number. At the middle school,
Not in middle school, but in high school,
yeah, at
yes.
the middle school.
But I don't believe we've ever got anybody to that third one. because
That's
I've
correct.
seen it out here.
Nope.
So I think that strategy is working, I think. I mean,
we need another
yeah, that's an easy thing. I just want to make sure that you guys don't have to be fighting this crazy fight all the time.
We are.
It's not going away. If anybody thinks that it is.
Well, it needs to go away as far as the administration is concerned and kids going into school. I mean, we couldn't walk around school when I was a kid and smoke cigarettes, and get by with it. We were in big trouble and we'd be out the door.
Yeah, and like Adam said, or Mr. Lander, it's a great point that they become addicted to that, whatever is in there, and that's, we worry about them too. Obviously, we have consequences, we do that, but there's also very much a side that is concerned and worried about them and worried about who they're passing it out to and who they're bringing it to at home with younger brothers and sisters who on the buses potentially. So we appreciate your support as a board in trying to not necessarily punish students, but to educate them, inform them, and to set consequences into place should there need to be punishments.
Well, you can't have the responsibility of taking care of it if you don't have the authority to to do what needs to be done. So,
Absolutely. But we don't need a motion.
It's a report.
Oh, it's just a report, so, but so that you're fully aware, this will be in the student handbooks.
I do have one, my only concern is that this, probably not even a concern, it's unfortunate, that this is going to find more 3-day suspensions, which, I mean, obviously the goal is to find it and to get it out of the schools.
Correct.
But I have a feeling with this, you now have a tool that's going to be able to find it easier and more, and we're gonna have, well, we're gonna have things that I think is going to lead to have an additional conversation, maybe in the future, to see what the severity of, as an example, the high school has seen 1 or 2 get to the second level, or a number of kids get to the second, but not the third. This might be that tool that gets them to the third. And my goal personally is not to get kids out of school, it's to help them in whatever we can. So that would be, I mean, I'm glad that this is what's happening and that we're gonna be able to do it, I hope. But I'm concerned that it's going to lead to kids leaving the school when that's not the goal.
Any other discussion? For the report? Next item is the sealed bid for the building construction house. Here we have 2 of them. Go ahead and open them up. And see what we got.
I was just gonna say, it's like straight.
I don't ever use those things.
Oh.
Okay, first one we have here. Justin and Carly Hammond. Did I say Hammond or Hammond? Okay, we have a bid amount for $61,000, and then we have the enclosed certified check for $6,100. Do I read about how that doesn't matter? Just give you the bids.
You need an address?
You need an
We
address?
usually do.
Okay, for both bids, all right. 3197 South Clevedon Road, Rule.
Is there information from the grant from the lender?
Do you want me to read
Do we
it?
have to have that?
Usually
No, it's usually attached, we don't have to read.
Yeah, it is.
The back
There
of
is
the
some.
check is there.
Right.
What was the dollar amount on that person? I'm sorry.
That was bid amount for 61,000, so the check is 6,100.
61,000.
This one is, I've got, don't have a, this one is for 53,501 Kenneth Cook. I don't have an address, but there is the check for 5,350.10.
Make a motion that we accept the high bid. So 31,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Johnson and a second from Mrs. Sari that we accept the bid for $61,000 to Justin and Carly Hammond.
There was a motion and a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You need a vote.
Hang on. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now you can laugh. Okay. Now,
Are they here?
right there.
Congratulations. Thank you, guys. And thank you for the bid.
Yes.
For to both parties.
So excited for you.
Let us know when you're opening up and serving your afternoon. Okay, next item is a parent request for interdistrict transfer.
We have a request from Sean Miller, parent of an open enrolled student from South Shore, for his child to attend school at Northwestern Elementary School rather than Iron River Elementary. You see his rationale in his letter to the board. Recommendation would be to approve.
Do we have should we do the motion and then see if anybody's got?
Motion second.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the interdistrict oh,
Yes,
Sean.
he's here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Following the board policy.
Yep.
Do we have a motion first of all for the interdistrict transfer?
I move that we approve that.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion and a second.
Now we can all.
Now we'll see if there's any discussion or any questions. Or if anybody has any questions for Mr. Moore.
I have a question. Is this mostly due to logistics? I know we've read into.
Yeah, so we live in Ulu, and I drive by here every day because I work for the city of Duluth. So it's easier for me. I just come down and I drop them off at the elementary. Otherwise, I'd have to go to Iron River, drop them off, and then backtrack. Where this way, it's just all fluid, you know.
What grade is he?
4K.
And obviously, if it's been vetted and it falls within all of our guidelines and everything.
Yes.
And every day has an older brother that goes here? Yeah, Owen Beasley. Yeah, he said he'll be in 10th grade next year. So we drop him off already every day, so it's kind of.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller. Any further questions or anything that you need? All right, we have a motion from Mr. Johnson. We had a second from
Mr. Granlund.
Mr. Gramlin. And do we, now we will take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next item of business is district crisis management plan and procedures.
As you've read in the board packet, the only thing we're asking the board to decide on would be whether or not to allow funerals, gatherings, memorial services, luncheons. Do we keep it as it is where this has been allowed in the past? Or do we not? The district mental health team, you have their recommendation, and you have the other side to reflect upon. One thing we did do is a survey, and in the survey, we realized of the CSA 12 schools and of the Heart of the North schools and some extension a little further. It's pretty split. It's 11 that are on the side of, yes, we should still keep offering that and allowing that. There are 13 school
The
districts.
opposite.
Oh, I'm sorry.
11 for the no.
Oh, 11 was for the no, don't do it. And it was 13 for yes, keep it as it is. Thank you, Peggy, for interrupting me. So it is something that we would like the board to decide on. The district team, the mental health team, their rationale is first. And I'm sure you read everything in the board packet. So now that we'd like to hear from you.
I like the line that says, schools are paid for by everybody, taxpayer dollars. I think if you start saying certain things are not allowed, I don't know, there was a lot of good reasons, in my opinion, that I talked about giving the, some people don't want to go to a church, some people don't attend a church. At least out here, the community centers aren't big enough. And I think this is a help for people that feel at home. I don't disagree with the fact that it should be able to continue as far as allowing the facility to be used for those things.
Anyone else?
I think of those 24 schools, we are kind of unique in that Mapleton is the largest town district. Except that they went to the school a lot. But that's forward to future. Would this include like spaghetti dinner, come maybe with things like that?
No. And how often actually do we have a request for it is the other thing.
We did have 2 requests this summer, but one of the requests found a different avenue. So one is still on, but it's not funeral. We're finding it's more so a gathering or a luncheon or a celebration of life. Yes, correct. But in my tenure, I don't know that there's been any funerals, but that's only 7 years. Peggy, could you help us?
I don't ever recall a funeral being held in our school buildings at all.
Yeah.
But there has been a couple memorial gatherings.
Yeah. I thought in the mental health team, I thought one of the rationales was powerful in that they said students don't have a choice. They have to come to school. And the trauma possibly inflicted on that, we can't tell. So I thought that was a powerful statement on the other side.
Of like a permanent memorial, you mean?
No,
That
no,
aspect?
just the fact of that's where the celebration of life happened, and that there's pictures all up about that person and such, that can be traumatizing.
I think the worst case scenario would be a student, sometimes a
Yeah.
student, and they have it here, and then how the kids are shot and things like that. That is the choice to come to the funeral, it's here. but that's about it.
It's
I mean, I can see where a kid passes away and they want to have a funeral on the football field. To honor them. But I guess if we kept this, we would want to tell those parents, like, do you really want to do this at the school in that situation?
I also remember, I was in school at the time, John Lundberg, who was drowning in the Poplar River. And we actually, came to the memorial for her here, and there was no stigma about it, I guess. Not from what I could say, and not for me either. So I do recall that as being a student here. I thought it was a nice gesture because, he was a student that people all knew him, when he was in high school. So I have no problem with it, I guess. It's
No problem with keeping it the way it is.
keeping it the way it is. We don't get that many requests, I don't think.
I'm fine with whatever everybody, everybody wants. I mean, on the one hand, I can completely understand, I always like to say, let's leave decisions up to the specialists and the ones that do this kind of stuff. And if we're talking to counselors who are talking about this is what's more appropriate for grieving and so forth, I like to lean towards what our experts decide. But then I understand too what you guys are saying, where we're kind of like we have all these little hodgepodge communities, and we're kind of the center of the community. And this is where a lot of the events are held because it's just always been that way, and it's a rural area. So I'm gonna pretty much say I'm gonna go with like you guys, with the majority ones. I kind of feel for both sides. I'm kind of torn.
we just need an answer, because then the crisis.
Well,
plan will
if
be
it's a
done.
motion, doesn't it just stay as is, or?
No, because the way the wording in the crisis management plan as to this second is that it would not be allowed. But I was not comfortable this is a big enough deal to bring it to you and ask for this to be discussed. And that the crisis management plan would either be approved as presented, or it would be approved leaving the protocol as it has been, which the has been means they're allowed. Gatherings would be allowed, memorial service would be allowed.
Sherry, did you have any thoughts on it you wanted to add?
I'm just looking at it, as for students versus, say, adults. Like, I like the number one regarding memorials on school property. I like the A and B there, but I'm not real comfortable with excluding everything from our schools. If someone wants to have a gathering of for a service or service for, someone in the community that has passed, and in those cases, kids do have the choice. I mean, I guess they do have the choice if they're going to come with their parents or not. But when it's on the school grounds during the school day, memorializing a student soccer, that I can certainly understand that we need to put limitations on. But again, I'm with you, Dana. I say we go with what the experts say. And that's the people that are part of our crisis plan.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
So if we need a motion to,
This is just a second.
a motion to not approve this, finish this case the way it is.
No, we don't have a crisis management plan. We need a crisis management plan, so you need to approve the management plan, but the key is with allowing or with not allowing services or gatherings.
So then I make a motion to approve the school district of Maple crisis team management plan and procedures with allowing use of the facility.
Got it.
I'll second that.
Do I need to,
Any further discussion?
do I need to, as far as the part one with A and B, that's in there, is it?
That's already in there.
So I don't need to.
The memorials at the locker for up to a week, that's already in there.
So I don't need to.
Nope.
Do anything.
It's already there.
How it's.
Correct.
Thus.
So, we have a motion, from Mr. Landwehr, and we have a second from Mr. Johnson, regarding the district crisis management plan. Any more discussion?
This report is very thorough. I like the thought that's gone through all of this. They did a very good job of assessing it and trying to figure out what to do. So on a difficult issue like this, I do remember one time we had a middle school student. It was at the middle school. There was a service, so. And it did work out very well, because I think sometimes parents don't know what to say to their children. And I remember going through this at my church too. It was this middle school student. When the pastor talked to the children in that grade level, it didn't really mean that much until I spoke up and I said something, because I had kids in that grade. And also, I had a niece that tried committing suicide. They were more likely to talk with me than they were to their parents sometimes, and actually even the clergy. So whatever is helping, and that's where I say this report is very thorough, that they know how to assess and talk to kids and families and stuff, so that they can begin the healing process. And after what we've been hearing on the news, yeah, I'm comfortable with, we haven't had that very many procedures, ceremonies, but I did go attend the one that was at the middle school, and that's back a few years. And it was very well done. Our guidance counselors and all the people on that committee were very good at handling the issues at that time.
Can I make a request to have a roll call vote, please?
Roll call on that one, okay. All right, so we have the first and we have the second. We will go ahead and vote, do a roll call vote. Let's start with Mrs. Sari.
Yes. He does it.
Okay. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Brandlin?
Yes.
Mr. Landwehr?
Yes.
And Mr. Blunt, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Olson?
Yes.
Mr. Blonick?
Yes.
I'm gonna say no just to, support the decision of the mental health team, so I'm saying no now. All right, so motion carries, however. Next item is the senior WIAA senior high membership renewal for 2022-23.
This is a yearly fee, doesn't cost us anything, but they want a formal motion by the board.
Okay,
Well, part of the thing is that there is an opportunity for junior high, middle school membership as well, so
We're not going there.
I make a motion that we approve it.
we have a second, okay, we have a motion by Mr. Johnson and a second by Mr. Landwehr to approve the WIAA senior high membership renewal for 22-23 school year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the 66.03 sub-01 cooperative agreement with South Shore Occupational Therapist.
We had an agreement with them last year. They have backed off on 2 days and they are now just at 1 day. And yet we still, of course, are grateful that they are cooperating with us. And the financial 66.03.01 is what's the financial DPI code necessary for the agreement.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we
We've
have a
had this for
motion.
a number of years. Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, maybe wait till.
Wait till the motion. Okay, motion by Ms. Sari. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Blonick.
I have a question. Is this something that CISA would be able to help us with, or to help us save money, or is this something beyond?
This is something that
CISA wouldn't provide this kind of service.
they find it difficult to find people too. And so the fact that we found a full-time person and are able to help another school district out, if we needed all 5 days, then South Shore would go to CISA and say, do you have 1 day?
So typically, we can hire a full-time employee under our
Right.
umbrella, it's cheaper for us.
Okay, and we need a full-time employee basically for this.
Sure.
Okay.
We're right about that. So last year, we were at 60% coverage, and now we're
Now we're
going
at
to be at 80, and I assume that there's work for the other 20%?
From my understanding from Cody, the answer is yes. I asked the same question.
We staffed it over 12 students this year, there's some significant needs. A group of our youngest students, 3 and 4-year-olds, come to us that have some pretty high needs. Occupational therapy being one of those. Does that occupational therapist position come out of the sped budget?
It does, but we supplement sped budget by $1.5 million, so the answer is sort of.
Sort of.
When they start funding it.
Yeah, full time, then that would be
great. Yeah.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Excuse me, it's a contract money, we should roll call vote.
Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote. Ms. Sari,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Granlund,
Yes.
Mr. Landwehr,
Yes.
Mr. Blonick,
Yes.
Ms. Olson,
Yes.
and I say yes. Okay, motion carries. Next item of business is the June 13th, 2022 Building Grounds Transportation Report and Recommendations. We had a meeting at 4 p.m. for this meeting regarding the 5-year plan on buildings and grounds. One of you want to give the overview? What we went over?
You're the chairman.
I know, but I'm just asking. Right? No?
Well,
Oh,
we had an extensive presentation by our outgoing business manager.
very thick.
It's about that thick.
It's about one, that's 1/3 of what we have.
Yeah.
Plus 3 other schools, but, regarding the replacements, upgrades, things that we're gonna have to be looking forward to, and some of the expenses that we will be facing here from this year till 26, 27, actually. And explain a lot of the issues that, in detail, some of the issues we have a former Minnesota Power employee on a committee. Ask some questions.
Ask questions.
There's the major replacements and upgrades. He went over the summer projects, the maintenance projects for all schools, and also the preliminary HVAC engineering stuff. Get from each school. We have just the high school. And then we tabled the second item we tabled as far as the electronics used in the classroom. That's tables.
Hot potato.
Well, and this isn't a specific, we're not voting on spending all this money for the next 5 years. This is an overview of what we're going to see. We'll still have to have individual votes on expenditures and when they come up and those kind of things, but it's just kind of a basic overview of what we're looking at.
Kind of helps with the budgeting and things like that. If we can look ahead and say, okay, we may have to look at, the roof or the boiler this year, whatever.
Have a business manager's memoirs.
You have some projects that are imminent, you have to do them right now. You have some projects, a number of summer projects have already been bid, and some are in process. Those aren't as big as the 5-year list. And then we went over the custodians. We didn't actually go into detail of the custodians list. What each custodian felt were the needs in their school, not necessarily major ones, but, and then we also went through, had an extensive study done at each school. There's 5 packets like that, one for each school, that they're drafts at the moment, but they'll have cost savings added to it if we do these things that we need to do. A lot of fix-ups, a lot of tuning, and the same thing was done actually in 2014. We did the HVAC and gas. We had everything commissioned then, where they go room by room, equipment by equipment, and find out if it's working right. There's adjustment. This is all geared towards air quality, cost saving, and looking to do out the next number of years to make sure that things don't just bust randomly. You know what I mean? And we have to maintain them, and we have to have our custodians have to know how to run this stuff. So we know that we need to do a lot more training. We have custodians that are hands-on, folks that are running and stuff. So that's kind of an overview.
I would assume that report was in conjunction with Mr. Petchel.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wording.
But it gives you from today forward, it gives you the basis that everything's been looked at, and now you got to decide what are you going to fix next, and we're going to have to do it. And how you plan
Recommendations. Listing of all things. Just to give you.
Oh, okay. All right. So if we could get a motion regarding the immediate summer projects which you have in your packet that we need to go ahead and move forward with, as well as just the acceptance of the packet of the proposed 5-year plan.
And the table.
And we're gonna we will table the electric appliance issue.
So what are the
Give
summer
motion on
projects? What are the summer projects?
They should be in your
No,
packet.
only the committee.
Oh,
We just got the agenda.
okay.
Constructing this track and field storage building, again, that's coming out of the 100,000 gift from the gentleman for athletics. Finish the athletic complex snack storage building, primary insulating to prevent cold weather plumbing issues, again, comes out of that same grant. Alexson well house pressure tank upgrade, Alexson Well Piping Manhole Alarms, the NES Bus Garage Water System Tank upgrades, additional security cameras at the high school and at NES. At the middle school, do I have a
It's not on.
old one? Okay. Middle school to the NES sewer line repair, and also that's happening this summer is the LED sign that's coming out of that $100,000 grant, Highway 2 at NHS.
Okay,
Replacing the wood one.
okay.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Ms. Sari. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Granlund. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item is the administrative report. We'll start with communications.
You've received a list of the school board meeting dates for July 22 through June 23rd, 2023. Board committee assignments are enclosed in all your board packets. The maintenance report, Mr. Stafford, is there anything more you wanted to say on that? Okay, CISA 12 convention in Ashland. Now we have Ms. Planick not only going, but being able to vote. Thank you for taking that. CISA 12 report. Ms. Sari, you had already resigned, so you didn't go to that particular board meeting, right? So is there, unless, or do you have a report?
No, I don't have anything to
Okay.
add to that. sorry.
Since Dr. Madison already spoke with us, we'll move forward. Hello, Mrs. Olson,
Yes.
you're up.
Yeah, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Donations, a Yamaha Alto saxophone valued at $600 was donated by Faith Kensrud, whose children are NHS graduates. Tambourine valued at $100 and 6 pairs of drumsticks, $20 per pair, were acquired from a recent DonorsChoose.org project, all donated to the music department. Viking Electric of Duluth provided a donation of approximately $2,500 worth of supplies for this year's building construction house. Benson Electric has once again provided materials, and which includes about $200 in materials, $1,500 in man hours, providing a licensed electrician necessary for this type of work. Troy Fowlis has been critical in making all these things happen. He has coordinated all donations and has even created simulators and training materials on his own time to share with our students. Mr. Charlier would like to add that our technology and engineering program has enjoyed tremendous support from our community. This type of tangible support is more unusual and worthy of recognition, more significant than the obvious added value to the physical results of our efforts in class. Our students are able to experience authentic residential wiring, and that has inspired at least 4 of our graduates to pursue careers as electricians. Peggy Wisted of Poplar donated $500 to Northwestern Elementary School with the message, quote, "I want to thank all of you for your dedication to our children. The past few years have been extremely difficult, and I'm so blessed to know how much you love these kids. Please accept this gift to use as you like for yourselves or the whole school. Thank you so much." End quote.
Thank you. All right, last we have comments from the audience. I'm going to just read this real quick to keep us on track. The comments from the public agenda item is not the forum for school district debate over personnel concerns. The public needs to refrain from the use of names or specific positions when used in a negative manner. And if you have concerns that involve personnel or staff members, please contact the building principal or the superintendent. Any comments from the audience? Going once, going twice, all right. We will then move for consideration for an executive session as necessary for those items exempted under open sessions according to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 sub 1 sub c sub e. Included under these items is a request to address the board on the expired early retirement for teachers policy and current early retirement for teachers benefit. And we do need a motion.
I'll make the motion to close. I have one question before I officially make that motion. Is this Paul's last meeting?
Oh, yes.
Is this your last meeting, or are you gonna keep coming?
See a smile?
Oh, you will keep coming. Thank you.
I thought you had one more.
No.
Well, I was
No.
the treasurer for quite a few years here, and I appreciated working with closely with Mr. Stafford, and I think he does a terrific job. He's gonna be deeply missed, that's for sure. But we got a great replacement, Mr. Patrick Connors, and a good hand. The transition seems to be working well. I want to personally thank Mr. Stafford and you.
Cody assures me that he's hot on the trail
I thank you very much because Paul, you've been the only business manager, well, there was a couple of before that worked with, and, yes, you are very much going to be missed, but just because you know your business in and out and very conscientious about the needs of our school district, so I thank you very much. Welcome, Cody. I hate to say it, but I know some people who are very sad to have you go from the other position. Yeah, so, welcome, and if Paul has trained you, I believe in you totally. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, so thank you, Mr. Staff.
Mhm.
Now, like, I realize this is your last meeting, but
No.
okay.
Sorry.
We have a motion by Mr. Granlund. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Ms. Sari is seconded, and we need a roll call vote for this, so Ms. Sari,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Granlund?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Lonnie?
Yes.
Ms. Olson?
Yes.
And I say yes. Motion carries.
We need to adjourn. Motion to adjourn or
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All right,
Open.
motion,
Second.
motion by Ms. Sari, seconded by Mr. Johnson.
Okay. Vote. All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think-